Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call.
Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. I am Melissa Deely, your host, and today I have with me David Crow. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I'm very excited to have this conversation with you and just want to introduce you to the audience and just some of the highlights of this long bio that I have in front of me. And David Crow has been a clinician, consultant, researcher, and educator in the field of natural medicine for over 40 years. A world-renowned speaker, author, and thought leader, David emphasizes reimagining healthcare and empowering individuals to become their own self-care experts, which I absolutely love that. I'm in complete alignment, which is why I'm excited to have you on the show, David. As a teacher, David has taught extensively for more than 25 years throughout the US, Canada, and Europe. He has been a top faculty member at the Shift Network since 2015, where over 10,000 students have taken his online courses. He pioneered and hosted the Shift Network's most popular annual Plant Medicine Summit, which has been attended by over 300,000 people from more than 120 countries. He is also one of the first Westerners to be trained and licensed in Chinese medicine and one of the few to study Ayurvedic and Tibetan medicine in traditional internships in Nepal and India. He was also one of the first medical pioneers to use essential oils and aromatherapy in clinical practice and to integrate these diverse modalities into comprehensive treatments. So I absolutely love all of that. And one of my mentors has also done traditional training in Chinese medicine and in Ayurvedic medicine in Sri Lanka and India in person over there in those countries. And I love that more people are doing this. And before we go to what you're doing now, though, I would love for you to go back in time. What led you into this passion and this line of work?
Well, I was originally drawn to Chinese medicine when it first came to the West. So I attended the first acupuncture college that opened in California and graduated in 1984 from there. So that was when Chinese medicine was first arriving. And I was very interested in the roots of classical Asian medicine. So what was coming to us in the early 80s was not very classical. It was westernized Chinese medicine. Right. It was more like traditional communist medicine, not traditional Chinese medicine. So as I started my clinical practice, I became very aware of how little I actually knew and how much there was to learn. And I was very interested in the classical roots of Chinese medicine. And so I was interested in Taoism and Qigong and meditation for a long time before I started Chinese medicine. And I was in close contact with the Tibetan Buddhist community that was coming to the West, specifically through the teacher Kalu Rinpoche at that time. And so I became very interested in Tibetan medicine. And after several years of practicing clinically acupuncture and herbology in San Francisco, I closed my clinic and just moved to Kathmandu. I had no idea what I was going to find. There weren't any colleges at that time of Ayurvedic medicine or Tibetan medicine unless you spoke the language and you lived there for a long time.
Right.
So I moved to Kathmandu, and within a week, I think it was, karmic destiny. Within a week, I had found my teacher of Tibetan medicine, and I became his only Western student. I studied with him over 6 years. I lived in Nepal for various lengths of time, a year at a time, sometimes several months at a time. And I also studied with the Ayurvedic doctors that I met there, and then later with different teachers that I met in India. So altogether, I made 6 trips, extended trips to Nepal and 6 extended trips to India. And that is where I did my classical training in Tibetan and Ayurvedic medicine. And then I was bringing that back to my clinic in Southern California over the years, and gradually it expanded into other areas of interest because I was learning that the plants were endangered. And so I started moving more into ecological agricultural projects and community gardens and the herb industry and herbal products and so forth, as well as my clinical practice. And then throughout the whole thing, I was writing and teaching. And so it's been fairly diverse for 40 years. But that's a very brief overview of what's happened.
Well, I absolutely love all that you've just shared and the fact that, as someone so young at the time that you were interested in Qigong and Taoism, etc., and that led you down the path of signing up for a course in acupuncture and then you continued following the seeds of your passion, of your interest. And I also, as I hear this story, wonder, because you said, you upped and moved to Kathmandu for a year and over the course of time did 6 extended trips there and to India, and yet you kept bringing it back to your clinic in California. So your clinic was still running in your absence with other practitioners, I presume, or how did you manage to make all of that work?
Well, I closed my clinic in San Francisco when I was gone for the first year.
Right.
But then after that, I worked from home. I
Okay.
had my clinics in my home, and I was able to be gone for several months at a time because of that.
Right.
And so it was complicated, logistically to build a practice and then be gone. But it was kind of like a specialty type of practice, and
Right.
it also worked well because I had patients in my practice who I could go to my teachers and I could present their cases and they could give me ideas for herbs and formulas. So I was actually using my clinical practice as part of my learning process with the classical teachers, and I was bringing back things. I was also involved in creating an herb company then and importing a lot of herbs and products. And eventually, I actually took several groups of people from my clinical practice to Asia for training. There were 3 trips to India and 3 trips to Nepal with groups of people that I took who were interested in studying these forms of medicine and or getting treatments as well. So there was a link. It overlapped, and so it worked. It was logistically a bit complicated, but it all worked.
Well, I love that. And you just continue to follow your passion and it grew and you were able to make it all work. And then taking others there to have them learn and understand that the universe and Mother Nature has given us all we need in order to be able to thrive in this planet. And for so long now, it's been squashed. And I love that your own interest has brought you into this work. Others are getting into this work, and you're bringing your own patients into this work because our bodies are designed to heal when we create the environment for them to do so. And there's so much medicine in our plants and herbs. So love that, you are literally wanting to, empower individuals in to become their own self-care experts and to know that they can heal their body. And we just have to get this information out, which is why I'm excited to have you here. So let's just dive in and talk about our relationship to plants and nature being both medicinal, and spiritual?
Well, that's a big subject. Why don't we start with our relationship to plants? And we could ask a basic question. Well, how is it that plants are medicines? And is there a difference between plants as medicines and foods and things like that? I mean, this is a vast subject, but we could touch on a few important points here. And one of the definitions that I like to use about herbology, what is herbal medicine? And one definition is that we are using the compounds that the plants produce for themselves for parallel human purposes. So this simple definition of herbal medicine is that we're using plants for medicines. But if we look at it that way, that we are using the compounds that the plants produce for themselves for parallel human purposes, then the question is, well, what are these parallels? And it turns out that the human body is very similar to the bodies of plants. And therefore, we can see that plants and humans have a lot of parallel needs. And if we delve into this, then it actually takes us into some fascinating dimensions of spirituality, actually, which is how we are part of nature and the intelligence of nature and how it relates to our healing process and so on. But if we take that statement that we're using the compounds that the plants produce for themselves for parallel human purposes, we can say, well, what are some of these compounds and why did they produce them? And what are these parallel needs that we have or purposes? A real simple example is essential oils that are produced by plants and give plants their fragrances. So we find essential oils, like if you crush a lavender flower, that's the fragrance, the essential oil. So essential oils are volatile molecules and they are distilled out of plant material, and that's how we have aromatherapy. Essential oils are used for aromatherapy, but essential oils are one family of compounds, and there are many families of compounds. There's alkaloids and polysaccharides and many families of compounds that the plants produce for themselves. Now, we say, well, why did the lavender plant produce the lavender essential oil? Or why does the oregano plant produce oregano essential oil, or cinnamon bark produce cinnamon essential oil? And what we find is that the essential oil compounds are actually the plant's immune system. They're antimicrobial, they're protective. And so the plants produce those compounds to protect themselves from viruses and bacteria and fungi, just the same as we use essential oils to protect ourselves from those same pathogens. And so what we see then is that we are taking a compound from a plant and we are using it for the same purposes, which is to protect ourselves. Now, what's really interesting is that we say, well, how is it that the human immune system and botanical immune systems are parallel? How is it that we can actually take these essential oils, which are really the distilled molecular form of a plant's immune system? How is it that we can take the plant's immune system and use it for our own immune system? We put the essential oil in a diffuser and we, breathe the aromatic molecules that are floating in the air. And if you
have
put
a peppermint one going right now.
if you put in eucalyptus in a diffuser, what you're doing is you're basically recreating the fragrance of the forest in your living room. Now, why did those trees produce those essential oils? Well, it's to protect themselves, and now they're protecting us. But where it starts to go back into ancient history and spiritual dimensions is we ask the question, well, why is it that the human immune system is so similar to plant immune system, why is it that these molecules actually protect plants and humans from the same things? All right. Well, it turns out that if we look at evolutionary history, plants came first. Plants were here for hundreds of millions of years, creating the biosphere of the planet. The plants created the biosphere of the planet. And they created the oxygen that we're breathing and the fertility of the soil and the food chain and all of these things. Plants formed the earth, really. They harmonized the elements of the earth. And that made it possible for higher life to come out. And so we could say in a poetic way, but it's scientifically correct, that plants created humans, that humans came out of a plant world.
Right.
And so therefore, we are actually an extension biologically of plants, and therefore our immune systems are very closely connected. And therefore, we can start to see that we have this kind of biological deep relationship with plants. And we could start to see that this has some spiritual dimensions, because it's not just ancient history that we're talking about. What we're talking about now is this biological inseparable unity that we have with the biosphere constantly at a molecular level, physiologically. Every breath that we take, the oxygen comes in, moves around, and goes back out. And that oxygen is all connected to the plants that are breathing and all the microorganisms that are breathing, that are producing the oxygen of the planet. And we are all biologically linked all the way down into every cell with all life on Earth, biologically. And so that's not just from plants and the creation of oxygen. Right now, we are feeling warmth in the body, that 98.6 degrees warmth. Mm-hmm. We said, where does that come from? Well, that's sunlight that is combusting in the cells. And how did the sunlight get into the cells? Well, it came in through the food chain, which is based on the plants. And so therefore, we feel the warmth of the body, and what we're actually feeling is a biological unity with the sun that has been created by this bridge of the plants that are harvesting sunlight through photosynthesis, putting it into the foundation of the food chain, and then we consume it. Now we're combusting the sunlight and it's giving us warmth. So all of these examples, breathing the air or combusting the sunlight, or the nutrition from the food, which comes from the earth, or the hydration from the water, all of these things are moving through the channels of space in the body. And all of these things are basically forms of ongoing, deep biological, inseparable unity with the biosphere. And so therefore, if we look at it that way, what we're actually talking about are the spiritual dimensions of our relationship to plants. They're giving us life. They're giving us the air we breathe, and they regulate the weather, and they regulate the water element, and all of these things are actually happening every instant in the body. And so that's a way that we can tune into the spiritual dimensions of how the plants created the biosphere, how human life came out of that, and how the plants are maintaining that biosphere inside the body every moment.
Well, I love that beautiful explanation of it, that it's so clear, and when we stop to think about it, it makes so much sense. And how often have we not stopped to think about it, right? I've never stopped to think about the fact that humans came from plants, although everything you've explained makes so much sense. And moving that forward to this is happening, outside of our awareness every single day, this beautiful, synchronicity between humans and plants, and how we move through life and engage on this planet and support one another. And yet sometimes humans choose not to be supportive of our plant founders of this planet. And I always feel like when we humans think we know better than Mother Nature, we mess it up. And we've done that through the, in the Industrial Revolution and the Agricultural Revolution have caused much harm to the plant life on this planet, and even to the food that we're ingesting, because the nutrients are no longer in the soil to the degree that they used to be. So I love that a piece of your work is education and sharing this with others. And I wonder if you can talk to that a little bit, and the fact that you're now educating kids, because when we educate the kids, they can have a new respect for Mother Nature as a result, versus getting into adulthood and never having really been taught this foundational basis of our interconnectivity between all of us sharing this planet.
Right. Well, I could answer this in two ways. And the first is about teaching the kids. Now, this is not something that I am actively doing so much now, although there are kids in my clinical practice that I work with, and I educate the parents more than them.
Right.
But there was a phase of many years where I was actively involved in creating and growing and maintaining community gardens and school gardens. And one of these projects is still going over 25 years, which is called the Learning Garden at Venice High School in Los Angeles.
Love that.
This was one of the first of the school gardens that I did, and this became kind of a model for school gardens all over the country. And the kids were definitely getting education from that. So a school garden is a really good model for healthy education on many levels. I mean, first of all, it gets the kids out of the classroom. They feel better and they get some exercise and some fresh air. But a lot of kids, especially in Los Angeles, they didn't even know where food came from. You know, they just thought the food came from cans on the shelf, and that was about it. And so it's a very humanizing experience for them to actually grow their own food. And it gave them pride of ownership. And a lot of these kids were from, the inner city and,
Right.
Poor background and not much contact with nature. And it was a miracle for them to actually see that those tiny tomato seeds turned into tomato plants, and then the plants gave them tomatoes, and they were so proud of it. But they'd never seen the actual cycle of life, growing a plant before. So this was a big part of education that I did, along with many other people, of course, teachers, and this involved all kinds of organizations and working with the school district and all the politics and all of that. But that was something that was very important and is crucially important and still needs to be done more than ever. But now I'm doing the same kind of education, but in a different way, and mostly for adults. And what I'm doing now is that we are still learning about the intimacy of our body and nature, but we're doing it on the meditation cushion instead. And so therefore, all these things that I introduced, such as our biological unity with sunlight, that's producing body sensations all the time, whether we're paying attention to it or not. And so therefore, our biological unity with the biosphere and the elements of nature are inescapable. All we have to do is stop and start paying attention to the body sensations. And all the body sensations are produced by these elements moving through the body. And so here we can kind of merge together a classical Asian medical concept and a classical Asian spiritual teaching, which is the system of the 5 elements. And so in Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine, we have a system of 5 elements, and it's used for diagnosis and treatment, and also for meditation and alchemy and spirituality. And the system that works really easily is from Ayurveda, which is earth, water, fire, air, and space. And we can use this to describe the body as a container of space, that the body is a container. And then what's moving through all of these channels. The digestive system is a tube, and cardiovascular system is a series of tubes, and so forth. The whole body is just a network of space, really. But then we put nutrients in it that are basically earth element from the soil. And so the nutrients are circulating around, and then we put the water in it, which circulates around as the blood and the lymph and the synovial fluids and all these fluids that are in the body. And then the sunlight is combusting and giving it warmth, and then we're breathing and it's oxygenating. And so therefore we have earth, water, fire, and air that are moving through these channels of space. Now, as these elements move through the channels of space, they produce sensations. And that's our experience of being in a body. Everything we are feeling is basically the outer environment moving through the microcosm of the inner environment. And so right now, everything we feel are sensations that are produced by nature moving through the interior part of the body. And so we can meditate on these sensations, and very rapidly we begin to feel the boundary between the inner sense of self and the outer world dissolving. We can actually feel that sunlight that came in through the plants and is combusting in the cells, we can actually dissolve the sense of separation from that, and we can feel that we are part of that field of solar energy. Now, that's a profoundly spiritual dimension to a physiological, physical, body-based
experience.
Sensations, you see. So that's what I'm teaching now. It's basically the same thing. It's like, instead of kids going out in the garden and having contact with the earth and the plants and the water and the sun, we just sit on the meditation cushion and feel those sensations, and we can go very deeply into our relationship with nature.
I love that. And there's so much opportunity and so much need to be teaching this to adults and children in this day and time, because we've gotten so into our do, have world that, we've forgotten that necessary relationship with Mother Nature. And I feel very blessed because I'm surrounded by Mother Nature, and I've been here for 35 years, and I chose to stay. It was a conscious choice I made, and I thank my 22-year-old self every day for making this choice versus moving to London, England, and getting into a big career and in, corporate life and in the big city. And to your point earlier with, kids in the, inner city and LA, a lot of people don't have that connection to nature. And I love that this is something that you really promote and offer and teach. And I know, having been raised in Japan, and in Japan, they have come up with forest bathing as another way to get people from big cities communing with nature. So yes, I love, love, love that you do this. And I know you talked about, starting a herbal medicine company and using plants as medicine. So I would love to come back to that conversation as well. And however you would like to share what you do in that respect would be wonderful, just in terms of using plants as medicine in your clinic and how you share that with your community.
Of course, and thank you for asking. And so my background is classical Asian medicine first, but I have also traveled extensively and studied other cultures as well, and have learned plants from South America and Central America and European herbology, African herbology, North American herbology. I mean, plants are plants, herbology is herbology. Plants are everywhere. And plants have medicinal powers, and they have different categories of uses. Some are very bitter and detoxifying, and we can't take them for too long, and strongly antimicrobial. Some are more nourishing and building. We use them more in cases for depletion and for rejuvenation. But there are many plants that are now available easily from all over the world. And so in a certain way, we're in a golden age of herbal medicine because everything's available on the internet. When I first started studying in Asia, you couldn't get any of those things here. Now you can get most of them. Now, when I was studying Chinese medicine, I could get those Chinese herbs from Chinatown in San Francisco. And otherwise, you couldn't find much.
Right.
There weren't herb stores all over, North America. And there weren't even, there wasn't even an internet. And so now we can get everything from everywhere, including a lot of the education about how to use them. And so my practice now, I was in hands-on clinic with acupuncture and Ayurvedic treatments and herbal medicine for many, many years. And then I was touring and teaching and doing a lot of live events for many, many years. And then the pandemic came.
Right.
And I switched over to doing everything online, which has continued on. And so now the way that I work is I have telemedicine consultations, and I help people to sort out complicated issues. And so this is what I call clinical level self-care. So I'm teaching about clinical level self-care. Now, people probably have an idea about what self-care means. It means get good sleep and eat healthy food and get the right kind of exercise and all of these things. But clinical level is really what people are needing now more than anything, because people are facing more complicated health challenges. And the main complexity really is the interface between natural medicine and allopathic pharmaceutical medicine. And this is for all ages, not just for, older folks. But there's a lot of kids who are on lots of medications now. And so people consult with me because they want to avoid medications that the doctors are threatening them with, or they want to get off medications that are causing side effects. Those are the two primary reasons that people consult with me. But I consult with all kinds of people about all sorts of things of all ages. And I would say that my specialty is really using natural medicine, either exclusively, if that is appropriate, for people to maintain their health, for rejuvenation, for longevity, for treating all the major things that people have, inflammation and insomnia and stress and all of these problems. They're all pretty universal now.
Yes.
A lot of these things can be treated very successfully with natural medicine, but where it gets more into the clinical level self-care is when people have to make complicated decisions about medications and how to interface with it. And so one example is that I work with people who are going through cancer treatments. And it is now well established for many decades, coming out of China first and now here, that integrating herbal medicine, using it along with chemotherapy and radiation, has great benefits. It supports the immune system, it helps natural detoxification of the disease process, and it helps reduce side effects, and it gives a better prognosis. And so that's a classic example of clinical level self-care, because we're talking about somebody who is in the allopathic oncology modality. They have to be, okay? And then what to do to maintain their strength and their vitality. And it's now very well established that these nutritional-based therapies with herbs have excellent outcome in a case like this. But I also do a lot of consulting about complicated diagnostic questions and what, should I do? Should I do this test? Should I go for this MRI? Now, what should I do about these symptoms? And one of the basic things that I teach, and this is a real good, simple example of clinical level care, self-care, is I always tell people, research your medications. And it's amazing how many doctors do not tell their patients what the pharmaceutical prescriptions will do. And it's amazing how many patients do not study them. And so they come to me and they are having onset of vertigo, for example, or countless other symptoms. They're having these symptoms that are coming. And the first question I say is, all right, let's look at the medications. And then they give me the medications. And I ask, did your doctor tell you that this drug could cause vertigo? No. Did you research this? No. And so a big role that I play in clinical level self-care is I just help the patients do the research that the doctor should have told them. That if you take this statin, there's a pretty high likelihood it's going to affect your brain, and this is how it's going to work, or it's going to affect your musculoskeletal system, and this is how you're going to feel. And so you started the drug 3 months ago. What a coincidence. And now you're having these symptoms. So that's a lot of what I do, is just to help people sort that out. But then the outcome of all of this is that I give people a comprehensive herbal program, and that includes where to get the herbs and the products and the formulas and how to prepare them and the dose and when to take them, and also lifestyle modifications, the healthiest diet for that person. And that's very individual. There's a lot of people who've been on extended vegan and vegetarian diets who are suffering from malnutrition.
Right.
And likewise, there's other people who are way too much into the meat and potatoes and need more vegetarian. So I help people adjust everything based on their needs. And I also teach meditation and teach 2 groups online as well. And so that's stress reduction. And, it's a comprehensive kind of healthy lifestyle consultation, but it's very clinically oriented.
Yes. Well, I love that you do all of that. First of all, that you're focusing on the self-care, the meditation, the stress reduction, because the body can't heal in a stressed out state anyway. So we've got to calm the nervous system. And I love everything that you've explained there in regards to how, the clinical consultation and how you're supporting people in their healing journey, whether they're on medications in conjunction with it or helping them get off medications that are triggering side effects that they didn't know they were going to have. Our society is so programmed that, if something's wrong with you, you go to the doctor, the man in the white coat, and he'll tell you what to do. And the reality is, and this is what you're teaching people, we have to take responsibility in our healing journey. It's not all up to another person to fix us. We're not broken. And that's giving up all your power and putting a lot of responsibility on someone else. And so the way you're guiding people through is teaching them that responsibility, even from that first question of, did you read the information about this drug before you took it? And that's a little bit of an aha for that person to go, oh, wait, I should have done that. Yes, should have done that. So yes, I love all of this. And I can actually think of a few people that I would love to refer to you myself.
Thank you.
Because of that clinical approach that you take to it. In my training as an integrative health practitioner, I never take someone off their medication. People come to me asking to get off it all the time.
I don't take people off their medication either. I give them the information to make their own decisions, and I encourage them to work with their doctors, because there are many cases where people have a medical necessity for a drug.
Yes.
But the goal, to articulate it very simply, is what is the least number of drugs that are medically necessary and the lowest possible dose. And if you have that as your objective, most doctors are pretty happy to work with you on that. And we find that, a lot of people come to me and they're on 10 medications, and there might be only 1 or 2 that's actually medically necessary.
Right.
So that's what we have to start with, is determine what is medically necessary, work with a doctor, be educated about it. Sometimes we have to be like attorneys and present our case, but if you go in and you've got the printed list of side effects from that drug and you've got those, the doctor will pay attention. So it's creating a partnership with the doctors when it comes to adjusting medications.
Yes, exactly. And I was just going to say that same thing, that I don't take them off. I have them work with their doctor to be reducing their doses. What I love, the missing piece that I don't have, is that you have, is all the knowledge about the plant-based herbs, et cetera, individually. Right. Like I have certain protocols that I can offer. You have all the individual. And so I love that. And Yeah, so important because as I said earlier, Mother Nature gives us everything we need. It's just a matter of us understanding it. And I will admit full guilt to this, that when I was in the corporate world, in my mind, and I had been programmed that Western medicine was the be all end all. And I literally thought of, Ayurvedic medicine or Chinese medicine as third world medicine. What did they know, right? That was literally my arrogance and my programming until I got into holistic health and my eyes were opened to what it truly is and how long it's been around and how powerful it is. And it's the machine that gave me the programming that it's, third world medicine. It's not. It is incredibly powerful medicine, and it's, what Mother
Well,
Nature gave us.
well, there is some truth to those concepts, but it depends on the case, all right? And that's what's really important is that we need to recognize that there are many systems of medicine and many ways of healing, and our role, and this is part of clinical level self-care, is just determining what is it that we need from each system. I am not against prescription drugs or allopathic medicine at all. And so in some cases, allopathic medicine really is the end all and be
It
all
is.
because you've got to have a surgery, okay?
Right. You've been in a
But
car
on the
accident, etc.
exactly, and on the other
Absolutely.
hand, on the other hand, um, Ayurvedic medicine, indigenous medical systems, um, they also have their limitations. And so what we have to do then is we have to respect all traditions for what they offer and to understand what they do best.
Yes.
Then we can make the best decisions. And I know that people have biases for and against allopathic medicine and for and against natural medicine and herbal medicine. And what's really important when it comes to medicine, to really practice medicine, we shouldn't have biases. We should really just say, what is the best treatment? And the problem with allopathic medicine is that they're just doing what they know and they don't really know herbal medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with herbal medicine is that they're just doing what they know and they don't really know allopathic medicine.
Right. Yes.
And so both systems have strong points and weak points and
Yes.
are at this point in history, what's happening is it's like a big cultural merging
Yes.
where we're trying to sort out what is best. But historically, when antibiotics came out, they were miracle drugs, and that's why people rejected their own herbal traditions.
Right.
You see, so now we have to learn what works for each person, and sometimes it's totally natural, and sometimes they got to take a drug, and sometimes it's a combination of both. So we have to be very open-minded and learn about what is really best for each person.
And recognizing that it is individual. There isn't a one
Exactly.
size fits all. And what I love in my learnings is that in traditional Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicines, the doctors didn't get paid if their villagers got sick. And so the
Well,
system was set up around education in order to help the villagers know how to maintain their self-care for themselves and look after themselves. I've heard that from several different sources, and I love that concept.
Well, you see, that's an interesting cultural perspective that you have, because in those cultures, um, uh, people generally didn't get paid to do much at all. I mean, everybody was on a
Yes.
barter system in traditional cultures, and uh, there weren't wealthy doctors, that's for sure. And there was much more emphasis on service, and there was much more emphasis on prevention. So there is truth to that. There is truth to that. But that's also dependent on the time and the place, because there are so many indigenous cultures everywhere, and doctors had different roles. Like in South America, there's not a specific role as a doctor per se. There's shamans, okay,
Right.
and the shamans are the herbalists, but they are also the spiritual guides to the interface to the spirit world. And so all of these things, healing and medicine and spirituality and hygiene and mental health, they were all kind of all rolled together in traditional cultures. And so prevention, of course, a very, very big part of classical Asian medicine. And we find writings coming from 2,000 years ago that were talking about how to prevent pandemics, you see.
Right.
So prevention has always been, you are correct, prevention, very big role for the doctors. And a lot to study. It's beautiful to learn how these different cultures did these things. And there's a great variety of how medicine was practiced in different times and places. So yeah, that's an excellent observation.
And I have a question for you that you may or may not be able to answer, and I've just always wondered, how did these ancient cultures determine that, oil of oregano was excellent as an antimicrobial, antibacterial, etc.? Like each different plant remedy, how were they doing it? Was it literally just trial and error over the course of millennia, or was there something more to it that you're aware of?
Well, first of all, there wasn't any oil of oregano. Uh, that's a new innovation. Okay.
The plant.
Essential oil distillation is fairly recent, even though there's been a lot of fraudulent marketing saying that it goes back thousands of years, but it hasn't really. Essential oil distillation is fairly recent, but the use of aromatic plants is very, very old. As a matter of fact, they're some of the first plants that were probably used by early humans. We do have that evidence. Now, we could ask that question in a very interesting kind of paleobotany kind of way. And we could say, well, there's evidence, archaeological evidence, that Neanderthals were using herbs 60,000 years ago. And it has been found in, dental specimens, and it's been found in caves and so forth. There's evidence that herbology, the use of medicinal species, these weren't food plants, medicinal plants were used 60,000 years ago. Now, if we trace it back further, now what we have that you can see on YouTube are these videos of primates, orangutans, using herbal medicine. They just intuitively know from the scent and the taste, and they will apply these things to wounds, okay? Or they will treat themselves with something if they're sick. And so therefore, the question you're asking actually goes back to how do our earliest ancestors in the primate world know how to use these plants? Well, they have some ability to determine through taste and smell.
Right.
And that's something that is part of the answer. We can say that there have been periods of time in human history where there's been great experimentation that has been done because people have actually been really looking for, what does this plant do? And so they will test it. A lot of it is trial and error, and a lot of it is recognizing taste and smell. And so that's organoleptic, is recognizing taste and smell. And now, of course, we're finding out all kinds of things through modern scientific research, which confirms a lot of the accumulated human experience.
Right.
So it's a lot of things. Part of it is just observing nature, observing how things taste and smell, observing how things feel in the body. But mostly people have learned from their ancestors information that's been passed on for a very long time. Like if we go and look at the first written herbal manuscripts, they came out of ancient Egypt about 2,000 years ago. That was the first time they started writing down formulas. But before then, thousands and thousands and thousands of years of oral history and people passing things on one at a time, generation after generation. And so it wasn't like they were discovering anything new. They were just maintaining traditions that went very far back. So that's, a brief answer. It's a huge subject, actually.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And when I think of that, telephone game that you play as kids where you say something and then you pass it all around the circle and it comes back as something different. And yet culturally, verbally we were passing down, very important information that was clearly staying true throughout the generations because it was still working. So I love
Right.
that. I could talk to you for hours about this. So fascinating. I love that you
Well,
came on the show to share your knowledge and brilliance. And as I said, I can think of people that I would like to refer to you. And if I love to ask every single guest that comes on the show, what does "don't wait for your wake up call" mean to you?
Oh, that's a great final question. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Well, what does that mean to me? That's part of clinical level self-care. Don't wait for your wake-up call. And what that means is that we should be cultivating a very high level of body awareness. And that means paying attention to how we feel, which is going back to our conversation about how the body sensations are produced by the elements moving through the body. So a lot of people don't spend much time paying deep attention to the body, how it feels. But this is one of the really important aspects of natural medicine, is that natural medicine teaches us to pay attention to how the food makes us feel. Pay attention to how we feel if we get a good night of sleep or we don't. Pay attention to our hydration levels. In other words, the body's always giving us this information. And if we're really listening deeply to the information in the body, then there's a pretty high likelihood that it's not going to give us a shocking wake-up call. We'll start to feel long-term patterns, and we'll start to notice that, wow, I really don't sleep well when I have that glass of wine at night, And that's, for a lot of people, that's a revelation because they never actually took a night off from the wine,
Right.
And so when people start to see cause and effect of you do this action and you get this result in terms of body sensations, then it starts to become the foundation of health consciousness. And that's how I would say we can answer that. That if you are paying close attention to your body sensations, you're going to learn about a healthy lifestyle, and that's going to minimize the wake-up calls.
Love that. Yes, because we don't have to wait for them, right? We can look at the cause and effect and adjust along the way. Beautiful. Thank you, David. So if
You're
somebody
welcome.
wants to reach out and work with you, how can they get hold of you? I have it all in the show notes. However, I would love for you to verbalize it as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. My website is crowconsultations.com, CROW, Crow Consultations, plural. And that is where people can see about my consultations and clinical level self-care. That's where they can schedule. And I have courses and I have free events and we do meditation gatherings and so on, and educational topics about medicine and, blog posts and all these kind of things. And then also, I will mention, since you mentioned this in the introduction, I have taught a lot of courses over the last almost 15 years now at The Shift Network, which is just like it sounds, theshiftnetwork.com. And if you go there and you just put in my name in the faculty, then you'll see that there's about 25 courses covering a wide range of topics related to herbal medicine and aromatherapy. So there's a wealth of archives that are over there and a wealth of archives on my site and the social media sites that I know that you have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Many places for people to get hold of you and learn more about your courses and trainings and consultations. So that's fabulous because you are indeed a wonderful resource. Is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience before we wrap this episode?
Well, I have had plenty of opportunity to talk about from my perspective. I just want to say thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for the good work that you're doing. And all of these podcasts and all the things that you have recorded, you have a huge archive of podcasts. So
thank you very much. Yes.
thank you for that. And good topics, good discussion. Very much appreciate it. And so keep up the good work.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
as
very
well.
much, David. I love bringing people such as yourself onto this podcast because I'm a big believer in educating others and letting them know there are many ways to heal on their healing journey. And if somebody else is healed, then they know they can too. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you. And to my audience, please reach out to David. And if you know someone else that needs to hear this episode, please share it with them. And thank you for always tuning in to the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. I am excited to share with you Quantum Life Mastery School. This is what we offer through Amplify Impact Academy, among many other trainings. However, this is our gold standard training. This is the training that allows you to become one of the top 1% of coaches in the world. That as a master practitioner, once you complete this training, you will be able to guarantee your results in writing to your clients because you are working with neurology and they will no longer be able to do their problem after you've rewired that neurology. Through this Quantum Life Mastery Schools, you will get 4 designations as a master practitioner of NLP, a master practitioner of timeline therapy, a master practitioner of hypnotherapy, and a master practitioner of NLP results coaching. And throughout this program, we build on the learnings as you go through the practitioner training, as well as some personal growth trainings to get to that master practitioner level. And this work is so powerful. You will literally, in just working with clients for 10 to 12 hours, transform their lives. And even better, this isn't just for coaches. We call it Quantum Life Mastery Skills because this is literally life skills. We've had people come through that want to be better parents, better partners, better leaders at work. One fellow came through because he knew the power of mindset with his golf game. He wanted to improve his golf game. When you do this work for yourself, your life improves, regardless of whether you're a coach. And the ripple effect of your life improving and up-leveling yourself has profound positive impact on your family and loved ones as well. So check out the link in the show notes to the Amplify Impact Academy Quantum Life Mastery School.